Hey there. I don't need to tell you, running a restaurant is a real challenge, but imagine that you're everything. You're the GM, you're the owner, you're the chef in the kitchen, you're the staff trainer. You do it all. You're wearing all the hats. Today's episode is about just that. My guest, Chef Bobby Maher, cut his teeth in New York City in some of the most demanding restaurants. We talk about all the key learnings and some of his prior challenges before opening the doors during COVID for his own restaurant in the DC area. We talk about leadership, the front of house, back of house dynamic. We talk about changing menus and providing value to guests and doing the inventory and figuring out the cost of goods and all those super important key performance indicators to make sure you're still making money in this business. This episode has it all, so please stay tuned. Along those lines, if you haven't heard about our restaurant academy, it is really a template to the systems you need to run a super successful and profitable restaurant. It's literally everything I've learned in over 30 years in running super successful restaurants. If you like what you're hearing, we'd also really appreciate you leaving us a review on your favorite podcast player. It'll help other operators, other people just like you, find us. If you have any questions, email me, Roger, Roger, at restaurantrockstars.com. I'm always happy to answer emails. If you're having any challenges or pain points, I'd love to help you with those. Or if you're looking for a personal restaurant coach, I do that too. Thanks. Now, on with the episode. Chef Bobby, welcome to the show today. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor.
Do you like me to call you Chef, call you Bobby? Like, how
Just
do you
call
like
me
to be?
Bobby.
Bobby work?
I'm not really too big into
Very
titles
informal.
and stuff like that.
All right. You know, my audience has been in this business for a long time. We have a lot of operators, we have general managers, we have hotel operators with restaurant operations, but it's hospitality people. And as we all have these crazy stories, and I can tell you lots of crazy things that happened to me. There was one time when I forgot to turn on the automatic propane delivery because we had a seasonal restaurant. Here it is Saturday night at 7 o'clock, and I got 10, 15 steaks on the grill, and all of a sudden
Oh,
the
man.
fire dies. And there's people waiting for the food, and it's like I go running out to the tank, and sure enough, it's empty, and it's 30 minutes before the delivery comes in. So you got to appease the crowd, and what do you do? And my mistake, stuff happens.
Oh,
Anything
yeah.
crazy happen to you?
Oh my God. Just in Arlington, the power goes out like once a year. It's always the days where you have 100 covers and stuff like that. But
Always.
I think like the craziest for me is being chef side of the owner of a restaurant. When I started this, my strengths lied in chefing. So it took taking tables, bussing tables, making cocktails, all this stuff. Took a little time, but I remember last year one of my servers was late. We had a 15-person party. I had to start. I had to make the cocktails. The server came in and I go and help cook the meal. It's just like that type of working on your feet. That's really what's addicting about it, honestly, is like when you get through those days and you're like, wow, I just did that. I remember in New York City, we had a catering manager that wouldn't know how to figure out if things were possible. It was the end of when everybody needs to spend their yearly budget. So we had 2 hours to do 300-person parties, buffets for all of them. And these buffets were completely maxed out because everyone's trying to spend their budget so that next year they have the same budget. So I just remember
No.
I go from cutting to cooking to plating an entire 3 buffets worth of salmon, which was something like 1,100 pieces. Yeah, and that moment when I was in it, just something felt like it was the worst. It's like how you do it, but like when you look back on it, it's like those little moments are the ones you cherish the most, and honestly, the most addicting. And that's why I think some of us never leave.
Heat of the kitchen, tickets are
It's
on
like,
the floor, the pressure, and we thrive on it, right?
but we have a way of making our like
Yeah,
biggest weaknesses our strongest attributes after or something.
I
So
like that. That's
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
true. You have an interesting story. Now, you had grown up in the kitchen. I understand the women in your life made a big impact on you, but then you got into the antiques industry, but then you
oh,
got
no.
out of that because you just had a passion for food and you got formal culinary training. Tell us
Yeah,
about that.
I was able to go to college too, which I think really, even though my GPA was 2.488, just going to that experience for me for personal growth, it was really important. It's not for everybody. And the same with the culinary school, like going through those moments of just like training and really getting to plan out here and just grow, really important.
Let's relate the influences because that got you really interested in cooking and you probably picked up some skills and different menus and that sort of thing. I think your grandmother had some influence
Yeah,
on that.
for sure. She was an amazing cook. She was a Slovak, but my grandfather was Sicilian. So of course she just learned how to cook the best Italian Sicilian food. Honestly, it really was through her. And I had a parent named Mary who came to the U.S. when she was 16 and took care of my brother and then me. And she really learned to cook around the time where I really was like growing up. So I was around this person who was raising me, was amazing. But I saw her transition into her first days with us when she cooked a chicken with a bag of giblets in the middle to, I think I ate at her house 10 years ago where she's making a perfect beef Wellington. So I really got to see like my grandma, who was a master, and somebody learning at the same time. And a lot of Emeril Lagasse too. I think that's where like the number one thing I took from just watching so much of that old school Food Network too, like all those great tutorials. And really, you really, back then, you really heard from the chefs how they did their processes and stuff like that. That really made me realize what my passion was. And I went to the antiques business because my grandfather was an antiques dealer and I took over after he passed. And that's where I learned that we got to do the things we're good at in play. Because I'm telling you right now, it's not the best antiques dealer. I mean,
Wasn't
like,
cut out for
was
it.
not cut out for it. But I was really happy that I got to be in his shoes for a little bit and start a business. And then I took everything I learned from that and was able to just realize like how important every day is at your business. Because the first one didn't really work out and it always stuck with me and it made me really want to make this one work. And in the restaurant industry, how hard that is.
You talked about learning, and you've got an extensive background with New York City restaurants. So we're talking about one of the most competitive foodie cities on the planet in very demanding kitchens. And you probably worked for some pretty demanding people, but there had to be some things that rubbed off on you that you now take to your current restaurant that you started,
Yeah.
and what you try to pass down to your team that you did learn in those really demanding kitchens. So let's talk about some of those experiences.
It was a challenge for sure. Coming from the French Colony, everybody wanted to go into like a Michelin star type of restaurant gigs.
That makes sense.
There was an extern period where you go out and you work at a restaurant. And I was doing my interviews for that. And I'm looking and I'm talking to these guys. I'm like, how long have you been making salads for? 3 years. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, okay, like I'm going to really learn how to be extremely precise. How quickly is that going to make me like really learn and really grit my teeth and learn the industry? And then one of my buddies called me and said, we're looking for somebody. It was corporate dining, but it had a restaurant. And it was in a very expensive doctor's club in New York City, a Wild Cornell Medical Center. And it was too much work, too little time. And we changed the menu every 2 weeks. And I remember the stress was just so intense. And I'm sitting there making $16 an hour. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I was like, once my journey at this restaurant ends, I'm going to be able to go anywhere and do anything. It was demanding. Like people would go out with injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to be put in positions where, as a cook, my first year, I stayed there for a while. I'm a loyal guy. I'm doing the ordering and I've been cooking for 6 months. And these are good chefs. It's just, there was too much work to be had. And it just cost a lot of wear and tear on the staff. I just remember looking at what my friends in culinary school were doing, and they were still playing on the South Station when I was already
hands-on.
Yeah, I mean, my first chef, Tanya, she was really good, classically trained French cooking. She went to France and all that stuff. And I was really lucky to come into that restaurant at a point where she did not want to cook on the line anymore. She was looking for somebody to take the saute station away from her. And she's classically trained French chef. It's the most demanding station. So right away, she was like, I see you can do it. I haven't seen somebody who can do it in a while. You're doing it. So I got this crash course. And a lot of people are looking for glamour, but that's not the way. Really, I think to become a great restaurateur sometimes for me, I learned by doing. And I think a lot of people in our industry learn by doing.
So I'm hearing having a whatever it takes attitude, whether they want you peeling potatoes or polishing the silverware, even if you've got a skill set, it's jump in, be part of the team, show you can do it, take on additional challenges, learn new stations. Do you pass that down to your team now? Do you try to cross-train people in different stations, which is a backup plan in some regards, but it up-levels people's skill sets as well?
I definitely do. I would say everybody in the kitchen can do, or almost everybody else's station. I think the saute station's the hardest, but I think we have 3.5 people that can do it, almost 4 now, that can do it, and not just do it, but do it at the same level, just as good as I can do it, because they're just trained. And I do certain things like, I change the menu quarterly, and
I was going to ask you that. Yep.
But I keep the same main proteins usually. One's a salmon, one's a duck, and one's a chicken. My chicken dish has been really good, so I haven't changed it in a while, which is unfortunate. But so the duck and salmon. So the preparation for those dishes is always, we sear the duck, and just the fact that they've been searing that duck, searing that salmon in the way that I like for so long, even though this changes and this guest is getting entirely different experience and getting a fresh set of ingredients, everything like that. Their skill set stays focused. Really what allows me to cross-train so many people in the kitchen is we may change dishes, but there's still these threads that stick with us so that everybody can grow. The one thing I haven't really done, because I've general managed to, is I haven't cross-trained the front with back yet.
I
I
was
wanted to do it, but I don't know. I'm always been too afraid.
Speaking of that, let's talk about the team spirit between front and back, because that can often be a divisive thing or a challenging thing where you've got servers on the line that suddenly need a recook or something, and then there's the heat of the
Oh, yeah.
kitchen where the cooks are just trying to put out the food, and it's like approaching them is a tactful thing, but I need this right now, and they're doing this, which is a priority, and it's like the dynamic, front of house,
Oh,
back of house, is different in every restaurant, but getting that team spirit, that mutual understanding, that collaboration, and most of all, the respect is a challenge. What do you
It's
see happening there? Your restaurant team is the foundation of your business and most important asset. I know from experience that a happy team is a productive team that deliver great guest service experiences. Morale is the key. Check out myemployees.com/hospitality. My Employees offers impactful, consistent, and most of all, appreciated recognition programs that boost morale, reduce turnover, and drive guest satisfaction. My Employees is the industry benchmark, helping thousands of hospitality leaders build winning teams. Go to myemployees.com/hospitality. Restaurants sell tons of fried food and your customers love it, but the hassles, hazards, and mess of fryer oil, cleaning hoods, and all that grease, well, you can forget all that with Restaurant Technologies. They deliver your oil, filter it, monitor usage, collect and recycle your waste cooking oil. Their AutoMist system automates your hood and flue cleaning, eliminating the fire risk. As a Restaurant Technologies customer, you'll also save 10 to 15% in your insurance premiums. Plus, get a bonus for new customer referrals. Get started at rti-inc.com or call 866-399-3639.
It's the most difficult challenge, right? Because the front doesn't understand, the back doesn't understand. We're two different types of stress, right? One is forward facing to the customer,
Yes.
and the cook. A lot of the restaurant, the back of house staff can't understand why that's so draining. But just the talking to people and keeping a professional attitude, that can make a 5-hour shift feel like a 10-hour shift. Having that table of 5 kids who are throwing, or that really educated dinner guest who you have to really like, that can be really draining. And the front doesn't quite understand I have a rail of tickets, I got to get this out. And that's why I think the number one like scary word to use in the restaurant is on the fly. If you want to get a reaction out of somebody, just like whisper that in their ear, they'll go crazy.
Yeah.
Try to teach compassion in a way. Both my parents are psychiatrists. Something had to rub off on me.
So you can use that because in a way, this is psychology and understanding someone else's stress, right? And just trying to bring that team together. And I think that's really important. So you'll crack that code.
So it's a lot of when somebody gets upset or when just like realizing, hey, they're stressed out. One of my cooks gets mad during brunch that something wasn't made. I'm like, hey, to the server, I know they got a little angry there. Like they don't really mean it. Cooking brunch is really difficult. And I try to stop the back and forth. I try to put it in a way that people can understand. And I actually think that has paid off more than a lot of the things in this venture is just I try to not make people hate their lives. And sometimes that's really extreme to say, but I hate their work. I don't want them to come to work and just be really miserable. So I will do certain things like that will make them a little happier. And I think in the end, that actually makes the guest experience even better because you're not sitting at a restaurant where you can feel tension between servers or stuff like that. At the end of the day, the servers and the bartenders themselves don't realize how tough their job is and how of an actual good career it is. Well, I want them to get the most out of this they can. At the end of the day, I don't want them coming in being like, I just don't want to be here. I think through compassion and just putting time between a situation where there's an anger that's erupting, take everyone aside. All of a sudden, I'll find something I have to do. I can't address this till tomorrow. All of a sudden, I can't really address it till next week. And by the time I address it, they already forgot what they were angry about. And it's those little tricks, because if you let a situation blow up and you're like, oh, half the restaurant is on one person's side, half's on the other person's side, and we only have so much time in the day as operators. We can't be dealing with so
I
much
heard
stuff like that. Right.
you're splitting. If I heard you correctly, I think you mentioned that you're spending some time as the GM as well as in the kitchen. Is that true?
I do both. Yeah. And it was a learning curve, but I just felt like to really get my vision in place, I needed to do both in a way. Because I put GMs in, and a lot of them would have a standard yell and stuff like that. And I really didn't like the yelling. But
Yeah, it's unfortunate. That is part of the culture in some extent, but to me, that's not leadership. That's just being the boss. And I don't think you get the most out of your people. You might lead by intimidation, but I don't think it creates the happiest people. And
yeah.
chances are you're going to lose them. They'll go somewhere else where they're treated with respect and their opinion matters.
Yeah.
And I think there's a
Yeah.
huge difference there.
And nowadays too, you can work at a place with a really demanding chef, really demanding ownership. But at the end of the day, if you go work at catering as a cook, you're going to make way more money and be less stressed out. So I think in the past 10, 15 years, the restaurant industry came a long way in treating people with respect. And I think that is something that can really help us move forward, because 20 years ago, people were getting yelled at for trimming too much asparagus. And they still do. And you see a lot of those places where the cooks turnover is like 6 months, you know?
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
can't. That leads us to the next question, labor being what it is and staffing shortages. Have you had any challenges with that in your operation?
I did at the beginning, it was impossible, but I started in the middle of COVID, so it was really tough finding anybody who wanted to during a pandemic. That was tough. Then there was probably 2 years in, the problem just went away for us. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I see some struggling sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I do things like with servers, I'll guarantee money for all the shifts they work and stuff like that.
That's unique perspective.
Because there's a lot of turnover of servers and restaurants because of the slower shift and the friction of that sets in, hey, you have two servers here, or you have a server and a bartender here. You need to have them both here. But the first day after a holiday, and then all of a sudden they're sitting there and stewing. And I just thought that created so much turnover in my past that I was like, I'm just giving guaranteed money for, and it only doesn't cost as much as you would think, because they're already making a solid amount. But it's taking the psychology of, I'm not making any money this shift out of it. Because I think that idea, it can be pretty counterproductive, especially when you want to provide a level of service. All of a sudden you're sending home 2, 3 servers on a Friday. You get a rush in, and all of a sudden 30 guests aren't seeing the restaurant the way you want them to see it. Those are the little things I try to do to make the whole environment a little more friendly. So.
What do you look for mostly in a new team member? What do you expect them to bring to the table?
That's a tough question. I think I've learned, and it took me the longest, the ability to get along with somebody, but it's also
Good.
the ability to work under pressure. If I see somebody that take a bunch of tables and can deal with pressure, I'd much rather take that person and mold them into more dynamic with tables, more chatty and all that stuff, than the other way around. Just because I think that having that sense of urgency in the restaurant industry is what most important. No matter, really, even my social media manager has a sense of urgency, because you got to get that Mother's Day post. There's a sense of urgency in this industry. That's, I think, the number one thing that I look for. That and flavors.
Okay, so if you've got two different candidates for a particular job, front of house, back of house, and one has lots of experience, but you don't know if there's good habits or bad habits, but they've worked for some pretty well-known places, maybe. And then you've got a new person that seems to have a great personality, the right attitude, the sense of urgency, but they've never worked in a restaurant before. Would you rather mold a new person like that, or would you take a chance on someone with lots of experience and hope that you can shape what you want to see in them, but take the best of their experience?
So this is going to sound controversial, bro. I would take the person with the less experience pretty much any day. If I can see someone's a good person and they'll maybe a little slower or whatever than that, I haven't picked it up quite yet. Me showing them how to be a bartender, the servers, giving them a life skill that's going to make them a solid amount of money. And that loyalty is important to me. If I have somebody, this is going to sound bad, but a lot of times I see somebody with all that experience and I don't even interview them. I'm just like, molding somebody is just pretty much, because if I see all that experience, I know they're just going to move on eventually. And I know we work in an industry where people move on, servers move on. We're not in New York City. The servers here, a lot of people are starting their careers somewhere else and working 2 jobs and stuff like that. But I want everybody who I hire to work here as long as I can and as long as they want to. And that person that you're teaching is going to be more thankful if they leave and a year later you call them up. I still have 2 or 3 people I call up regularly and they'll come and work a shift. Yeah.
Flexible people that are proven time in your place. You know what to expect. You know what their skills are. And if you can just randomly call someone, they'll bail you out when you need it. I think that's great. You can't have too much of that.
No, you can't. And
Yeah.
it's hard to instill. And I think just having some years on our belt really helps. It really is a transient world. There's still so many people who still work here. My dishwasher's been here since the beginning. One of my cook who's been here since the beginning. It feels good to have that sense of loyalty. My barman has been here for almost 3 years now.
The backbone of your place. These are the people you can count on day in and day out.
Yeah, and customers notice that when your favorite server's gone,
yeah,
they might not come back.
I've always believed that the front of house, you're making friends with your guests every shift. You're giving people lots of reasons to come back, positive social media, positive reviews, but use that personality so that people ask for you when they come in. Our audience knows it's like we've got these A players that just have a following that is brand building, that is literally great for the business. You can't have too many people like that.
Yeah, that's so hard to teach too.
Yeah,
I think that's
I agree.
is teaching that like personal connection. That's almost ingrained in people's personalities, that ability to become 5-minute best friends with somebody.
Is there a typical day for you? Because again, you're mixing it up between front of house, back of house, and you still get to cook as much as you want to, maintain the consistency of the product, but yet you're the maitre d', you're the lead guy, you're the owner, you're all these things, wearing all those hats. What's a typical day like?
Lily's Fresh Pasta refuses to compromise on quality. This family-owned business, built on time-honored traditions passed down from Lily to her son Antonio, lives on with every batch. Lily's Fresh Pasta is made to European standards using 100% non-GMO, glyphosate-free Italian unbleached wheat. Lily's is served in the finest restaurants in America. I've had Lily's Fresh Pasta many times, and I can tell you it's always molto buono. Elevate your menu. Serve Lily's Fresh Pasta in your restaurant. Ask your local food service representative or call Antonio directly at 603-818-2100 and be sure to follow Lily's on Instagram at Lily's Fresh Pasta.
I do pretty much, it can be anything really. Like right now I'm nursing a little bit of an injury. So I'm pretty much overseeing quality and making sure they get it down pat. I'll cook, do a bartending shift, do a serving shift. I'll do anything that needs to be done. I think that's the hardest part to get when you're like, I want to own a restaurant. I'll cook the entire time or I'll just be in the kitchen the whole time. And that never happened. Never.
Now you're talking about running a business. You are a business owner, operator. You're not just running a restaurant. And you have to. You've got to have your hands in all those things.
There's definitely that moment of when you're first starting, you're just like wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. And then all of a sudden you gotta learn how to fix stoves and do all these things that you never really thought you had to do. But that's so rewarding, honestly.
Let's talk about the financial side, because that's primary in business, of course. And there's inventory and there's cost of goods and there's all the major things that you need to track, those key performance indicators. Do you get involved in that? Do you empower other people to take over? Like the ordering is one thing, but then tracking your food costs and your labor costs regularly and all those things that are really important to the bottom line.
Yeah, it's gotten more important too, because with inflation being
what it is. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like all these egg problems, this and that.
Oh, that was huge. And you're doing brunch 5 days a week and suddenly eggs are like out of sight. That must have hurt you.
That definitely did hurt. I remember there was one time where I got my eggs for the weekend and it was $333 for 300 eggs. And I'm just sitting there.
Unbelievable.
Everyone's eating for free this week.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so that honestly is, they put so much more time into it than I used to have to. I used to be able to just be like, I know where everything pretty much is on this. I'll set the price. I don't have to put it in spreadsheets like I used to have to do for when I work for people. But now with the prices changing so much.
Yeah. The volatility of the markets is really hard to keep in line.
I have a consultant that helps me with that too, just because it's hard for me to do all this operating and track stuff like that. But we make it hold me accountable, because when you're a chef owner, that's the last thing you want to do is the inventory on the Friday night, the close of the month. But
right, I know, but it's something you got to do.
It has to happen. And I remember there was that big inflationary period. I think I want to say 2023, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable charging my guests this much for certain things, so I didn't raise my prices for an entire year. And I saw how much that hit our bottom line.
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
really in like a mode of, I'm going to use this opportunity to capture more guests and stuff like that. I think it did work, but I saw the real cost of that was something that,
Margins.
the
Well,
margin, yeah,
it's a balance, Bobby, that you're talking about now, because you could tell that you have to continue to offer value to the guest, right? For
Yeah.
price paid, you need to offer value. That's really hard to do with rising prices. There's a limit sometimes to how much you can raise prices on a menu. Your systems really need to be efficient. But then with the short staffing thing, if you're not able to put out great service to go with the great food, but you're charging a premium price, you're going to lose customers. So
yeah.
it sounds like you struck that balance. You might have brought more business in the door. It hurt in the short term, but I think it helped you loyalty a little longer term. And word of mouth probably kicked in and probably brought new business in that you might not have gotten. You never know.
Yeah, definitely. If I go back, I don't know if I would have. We were in the uncharted territory, and I definitely think we got our loyalty off of some of that. But there's a little like psychological things in that too, because the customer, there's so much they're trying to perceive to make a decision of where am I going to eat, and even something of a price being too low, all of a sudden can cause a little skeptical.
True enough.
One
Yeah.
of my main competitors
Is the quality there? You
Yeah.
start to question. It's
So you really have to price it correctly, I think, in order to even, because guests are skeptical these days. They're so skeptical. We're really knowledgeable. I think social media has really helped with all that and stuff.
yeah. Do you have multiple suppliers? Do you go with any of the big box suppliers, or is it local family farms? Is it a combination of both? Like, where do you order?
I stuck with my supplier from New York City, Baldor.
Oh,
It's a
yeah,
little
Baldor.
more-
I'm familiar. Yep.
And it used to be a little more pricey, but it's really affordable now. They just opened a warehouse. I can't remember the last time I sent a box of produce back for me. Maybe 2 years ago. Zucchinis. Yeah, that was it. But they're really consistent. Everything's really, they have fun stuff. They can also do all the meats you need. I'm not going to buy it from them, but they have an emergency and I can get it from them, which is really helpful. But I do have Cisco as well. I feel like you just got to have Cisco in the restaurant industry these days, or US Foods or something. But it's not as much balancing one after the other as you'd think. The prices pretty much match up pretty good. And I think we have Fells Point for meat, and they do really well. They've helped me find a few like steaks that are pretty incredible that took a lot of searching. I just found the Dakota steak, which is, I still haven't quite grasped how they manufacture it off of the strip loin. It's the most incredible bite on the strip loin, honestly. It's so good. I'm giving away my secrets here. But I can charge $32 for that steak and make a margin. The steak it's replacing was an $80 steak for two. So now you're getting really, having these local suppliers of the meat is helpful because they know their product. The meat guys are, and the fish guys always know their products. So
It's gotten more challenging with the food allergies and the celiacs and the gluten-frees and the dairy-frees and all that. Do you find that's much of a challenge? And if it is, obviously there's a huge training component that goes into your team, because you can't misrepresent things because you could make people sick. And it's like nut allergies. And it just seems like there's a new one every day now.
yeah.
How do you deal with that?
It's tough. I make sure all the allergies go through me. My days off, I'll have them text me or something. They all know how to, all the major allergies, they're great. We've never had knock on wood, never had any issues.
Great.
But it gets difficult too, because a lot of these, even I use tempura batter for a lot of stuff. A lot of things have a lot of little ingredients these days. And I think that's the most difficult, is there's so many of those modern food, simple items that you think wouldn't have, like my tempura batter has soy in it. And you wouldn't quite think that as a customer. So there's a lot of tricky stuff that can cause a reaction that you really have to keep even fries. Some of them just have gluten in them, not even the crispy ones. And I'm just like, that's hard, but I just make sure that there's two sets of eyes and we're always just
staying on top of it and sending the right message, because that's something you can't short shrift, because it matters too much, not only to public safety, but your reputation and future business and all those things. But it just makes this business that much more complicated.
Yeah, it feels good when you can make something good for somebody that, has very limited options for fulfilling.
Yeah, for sure.
A little pieces of joy in this industry from the crazy times.
What about onboarding and training new people? Is there a specific training that they go through in terms of hospitality, service, salesmanship, those types of things? Best practices? Do they shadow other team members? How does that go?
We have a shorter training. I'd like to be a little longer, but we every time my hiring processes, we do a style I bring someone for 2 hours and I pay them and I give them free food. And then we see where they're at. And then after that, it's 3 training shifts and they get to hit the floor. I feel like the training really doesn't happen until they really hit the floor. So I'll do stuff like I may put an extra person on a day I wouldn't normally, just until they get acclimated to the pace. Because I'm in the DC area and it's a high pace here. You fire your main courses right after those appetizers are done. I was in the Outer Banks and they don't fire their main courses until those appetizer plates are in the kitchen. So it can take a little while to get that speed and attention to detail going. I'll put on a tip pool and make sure that they don't put situations where they're not going to succeed, because that's just going to create less customers.
Okay, that's a best practice.
Yeah.
You've been open now since the pandemic. Is there any tried and true marketing that works? Like, how do you find new customers?
Marketing is, I think, the number one most important thing. Maybe for me specifically, because I'm in a very tough location to see. The last 5 months, I've been really investing in PR, just getting yourself in front of customers, reminding people that we're there. It builds. It really is important to just be in everybody's mind without being too annoying.
Do you get any influential politicians, Capitol Hill people come in and they speak and they talk to people, and the next thing you know, you've got a following? Does that ever happen? Are you close to this?
Not so much. I think I'm a little more in the Arlington, so I'm a little more in the suburb range. Like we've had the last chairman or joint chiefs of staff eat here, and the local politicians and stuff like that. I'm really bad with face recognitions and stuff like that. But I remember when the chairman of the joint chiefs of staff was here.
That's a big deal.
It was cool. It was really cool. His Secret Staff service was eating at a table by the window.
Awesome.
And of course, I light one of those like birthday sparklers up.
Those are great.
Yeah, when the Secret Service are there, it's not so great though.
Oh, they get a little freaked out by that?
They
Because
look
it
at me
shoots like
daggers,
sparks
and
3
I'm
feet
sitting
off
there
the
like,
table.
Yeah, oh yeah. And then they were sweeping the place beforehand and all that stuff. And I was like, lesson learned. But I felt those daggers, I'll tell you that.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a great story.
That was one of the little mistakes you make in the industry.
But now you got a good story to tell. That's
of course.
fantastic. Very cool. Well, you've been at this a while and you clearly have a passion for the business. What's next for you, Chef? Any plans to open any new locations, different concepts in the future? Or do you stick with this for a while? What do you want to do?
I think my dream, I think going to my girlfriend, this is having one of the restaurants a little more further down south on the coastal town. I think I'd rather have my next space be a little calmer of an area, because for a while I was like, I'll go back to New York and I'll make something, but it's just quality of life. I'm 39 now, and so I think
that's very important.
But yeah,
you mentioned the Outer Banks. Did you like the vibe down there?
it was really nice. I stayed in a retirement community though, which was so nice.
Just chill.
So chill. I think I love quiet, and it was quiet, but there was tons of restaurants there, tons of commerce, and it's the beginning of that season. Who knows what the winter looks like, but,
Sure.
but yeah, there's something nice about the customer base too. Very sweet, and you can see it. And our customer base is great too, but it's a little more high paced. It feels more, I don't know, a little tougher to have a party of 20 business people who are in a rush over some really lovely tourists just relaxing and having a great time.
I get it. Fantastic. I wish you the best of success in what you're doing and what your dreams are. You got to follow those dreams.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been great having you as a guest on the show. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week.
You as well. Thank you so much for our audience for tuning in. That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. We can't wait to see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. Stay well. Thank you to the sponsors this week. Running my restaurants taught me that the right tools move your business forward. So I'm a fan of Touch Bistro. It's more than just a POS. It's an all-in-one restaurant management system built by restaurateurs. Touch Bistro helps speed up service, reduce errors, and turn tables faster, while loyalty programs, online ordering, and contactless payments boost your bottom line. Plus, real-time analytics, inventory tracking, and staff scheduling are game changers. Want to learn more? Reach out to my friend Becky at BTARTICK@touchbistro.com or give her a call at 647-360-3994. She'll give you the full scoop and take great care of you.
People go to restaurants for lots of reasons. For fun, celebration, for family, for lifestyle. What the customer doesn't know is the thousands of details it takes to run a great restaurant. This is a high-risk, high-fail business. It's hard to find great staff. Costs are rising and profits are disappearing. It's a treacherous road, and smart operators need a professional guide. I'm Roger. I've started many highly successful, high-profit restaurants that I've now sold for millions of dollars. I'm passionate about helping other owners and managers not just succeed, but knock it out of the park. I created a game-changing system, and it's filled with everything I've learned in over 20 years running super profitable, super fun restaurants. Everything from creating high-profit menu items and cost controls to staff training where your teams serve and sell, to marketing hooks, money-maximizing tips, and efficiencies across your operation. What does this mean to you? More money to invest in your restaurant, to hire a management team, time freedom, and peace of mind. You don't just want to run a restaurant, you want to dominate your competition and create a lasting legacy. Join the Academy and I'll show you how it's done.